I'm live.
All right.
Cool.
There we are.
Dang.
Perfect.
All right. Welcome to ASCCA Podcast. That's the Automotive Service Council's California. Today we have Rocky. I'll mess your name up if I say the last name. Oh, I'm not going to say it.
It's Khamenian.
Khamenian.
There you go. Okay, we got it. As you can tell, we have a lot of fun on these things. We have Patrick Howard, Star Automotive in Brea, and the Institute, and we have Cecil Bullard of the Institute. Today we're going to be talking about how to set your labor rates. And before we start, I've got to do a disclaimer. There's some rules here. We're not trying to set a labor rate. We're not trying to tell you to set a specific labor rate in the industry. That would be against the rules and against the law. What your labor rate needs to be is whatever it is, based on the right math, based on the right thought process, that makes you the kind of money that you want to earn. So if you work with us at the Institute, we're going to tell you need to make 20% net. And we're going to help you set your labor rate based on creating a 20% net profit. As we go, if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, you can use the Facebook Live to put some comments in. I'll try to keep my eyes on that, as well as you can use the comments section for those of you that signed up for the webinar. So welcome, Dave Kusa. All right, so labor rates, the question is, I asked you this question, Rocky, before we started. What do you want to talk about? What is it about labor rates that the discussion that you want to have? So we'll start with that.
Thank you. So can I start with who I am? I'm Rocky Khamenian, the current president of 2018 current president of ASCCA, Automotive Service Councils of California. The core purpose of this association is to elevate and unite automotive professionals and give them voice. That's the only dog I got in the fight. Basically, I care for this association. I care for the in the industry, and I like to see it elevate. We need to come out of grease monkeyness, and we need to get into professionalism. And in order to be doing that, one of the first things that we need to figure out is to have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And in order to achieve all these goals, we have to have our numbers right. The essence of the numbers come from the labor rate. If we can, because that's what we start everything with. When we give estimates to the clients, when we collect money, we're doing everything over labor rate. And obviously parts also, but labor rate is very, very important. So I've seen some groups before that we were talking about labor rates. They're comparing each other's labor rates, and I think that's a very, very not a good thing to do. It's not healthy to compare your labor rate to somebody else next door or across the street or even in the other side of the city. You should come up with your labor rate according to what you want to do and what you set yourself up to. And that's the whole essence of personal.
Okay. So, Rocky, you wanted to help the owners of shops figure out how to come up with the right labor rate. Patrick, I see shops all the time basing their labor rate on someone else. The guy down the street, the dealer down the street. Why is that maybe not the right idea?
Well, it's a perfect way to kill your business if that's what you want to do. You've got to base your labor rate, like Rocky was saying. You work backwards. Most people have a pretty general idea of what their expenses are. I start from a different point. What do I want to pay my guys? And then work backwards from that. I want to make sure my guys make 20 or 30% more than they would make anywhere else. And then I will adjust it based on my needs for my business, fixed expenses, and then I want to have a 20% net profit. That's the formula. if you don't do that, what you're going to do is set yourself up for disaster. One downturn in the industry, an economic downturn, and you've got no reserve, and your business is hanging by a thread.
Okay. There's a couple of things I think I need to state right here, and that is kind of how to do this. You know, when we think about our industry as an industry, you know, where are we in relation to other industries? And number two, how do I determine what my labor rate really ought to be? What are the things I need to consider? And I think the first thing today really is, how do I pay my staff? Because if I can't, I mean, I think one of the largest, if not the largest problems we have in the industry, it's probably the second in my book. First is this lack of professionalism, this lack of association. Not to take away from the SCCA, it's a great association. But you have, I don't know, 37,000 automotive shops in California.
Yes.
And I don't know what your numbers are, but it's not 37,000.
No, it's not.
And there ought to be 37,000 people involved with the association.
Yes.
So if you're not involved with the association, you're in California, join the darn association.
Yes.
We need your money, frankly, so that we can lobby and we can have a fair representation in the government. Yeah. And we need to get together as an industry and create additional professionalism. All right, my little pitch there. Now, so if the second largest problem is the fact that there's a lack of qualified staff, good technicians in the industry, and they're becoming fewer and fewer as guys age out, we're not bringing guys in and keeping them. And if that is the problem, then there's a couple of things that I'm going to need in my shop in order to attract and keep good employees. And one of those is I got to pay well. Yeah. And I need the money, frankly, in my business to have a nice place for them to work, a clean environment, a couple of bays, good lighting. And I got to spend some bucks on some tools so that they have the right tools. And I also have to spend some money on education. So I have to take all of that into account when I'm setting my labor rate. Now, I never cared what the guy down the street's labor rate was because, frankly, I don't know what his expenses are. I have no idea how he pays his staff. I don't even know if he has insurance for his business, and I can't do without those things. So I've always set my labor rate based on two things. What do I need to pay a good employee? And let's have that discussion in just a second. And number two, what will the market bear? Now, I'm gonna say something here, and some people are gonna not believe what I say, but 12 years ago, my shop was $158 an hour when everybody else was $100, and the dealerships were $110 to $120. And we were one of the busiest shops, if not the busiest shop in town, at $158 an hour. And why were we $158 an hour? Because our payment on our facility was $21,000. Because we had a fairly high-paid manager to manage the business in place, and he had to get paid because we had loaner cars, and we washed our customers' cars, and we gave them a 3 or 36,000-mile warranty years ago. So I'm not basing my labor rate on what the guy down the street charges. If I do, I'm going to be in trouble because there's always going to be a guy down the street charging half of what they should charge.
Yeah.
So now, if I base my labor rate on those two things, one of those is pretty simple. How much should a good technician make in the automotive service industry? So let's, Rocky, what do you think that number ought to be? Somebody that has $100,000 in tools, has a good education, understands the modern vehicle, knows how to do proper diagnostics, and gets it right 99% of the time. How much should that person make?
Well, it all depends on demographics, where you are, where you live. It all depends on that. So my opinion is that, well, the range for the labor for the technicians is somewhere around, I think, starts at about 15, goes all the way up to 45 or 50. Sometimes some people make $50 an hour, depending on where they are and depending what their capabilities are, depending on a lot of other things. I also wanted to add too, Cecil, that it is very important to think about the future of, for example, if you're talking about technicians, we want to talk about their productivity depending on their education, depending on what they're setting themselves. You're setting them for their future. Let's say if you hire a technician, you're gonna set yourself up to raise his rates, to give him more money, to give him more benefits. All of those things that you're going to be adding to these, or anticipating to add, has to be within that labor rate too. So it is very, very crucial to think long term. And I think one of the biggest issues in our industry is that, especially the younger business owners, younger shop owners, which I cherish because that's, they're the future of this industry. They tend to not to have those long-term goals because they're just, exactly. They think that they make certain amount of money, that's good enough. And so they don't have the short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. And I think mostly my intent is to talk to them, to conversate with them, and also so we can elevate them into the professionalism. Sorry, I kind of weird off a little bit, but
no worries. I'm gonna ask you the same question in a different way. Rocky, today, are the technicians in the automotive industry being paid what they should be paid and what they're worth?
No, sir.
Okay.
Nope.
And if we can't combat the other industries that are sucking people out, the video game industry, guys are coming out of school making $80,000, $100,000, $120,000, and they've got someone doing their laundry and feeding them meals at their place of business. That's a problem. I'm going to tell a brief story, and then Patrick, I know you've got comments. I came home the other day, and our dryer was making this thump, thump, thump noise. And I asked my wife, I said, "Hey, honey, dryer, what's going on?" She said, "Oh, it's been making that noise for a couple of weeks." And I'm like, "Get the washing machine repair guy out." And he comes out, and it has a bad idler pulley, the dryer. And he takes it apart, which takes literally 2 minutes to pull the casing off and set it aside. He's got an old S10 truck that he parks about 3 blocks. He lives about 3 blocks from us. And he's got some hand tools. So he's got, a tool belt with some things on it. And it takes him about 2 minutes. He takes it apart and he says, "Mr. Bullard, you're going to need an idler pulley, and I'd recommend we go ahead and replace the belt while we're in there, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Great. How much is it going to cost?" And it's $263, right? Now, I don't care about the $263 because this is a $1,400 dryer. My wife has to have the top of the line, whatever it is. And I told him, I said, "Great, when can you have it done?" I mean, I'm just like, it's more about, we have clothes that need to be dried, get it done, right? So, he gets the thing, he actually puts the dryer back together because he doesn't have the part, comes back 2 days later with the part, takes about 15 minutes. So he's got a half an hour invested total. He's got an idler pulley and a belt, and it's $263. Now, if I looked at the parts are probably $100 of it. So he was $160 for, let's say an hour. This is the washing machine repair guy charging me somewhere between $150 and $200 an hour, who doesn't need the kind of education or tools that my technician needs. There's something wrong in our industry when we're so held back by a third of the industry that's not charging what they need to charge. Now, yes. Patrick, your labor rate is higher in the area than most of the other shops probably. Tell me why have you done that, and what's the result of that?
Well, the first reason is I want to make sure that my technicians get paid well. The second reason is I want to make sure that they have medical benefits and a retirement program, which I've implemented. The third reason is my bills dictate that that's what I need to be at. I want to go back to the previous question. In California, I can only speak to California. I don't know about the rest of the country, but an A-level technician should be making at minimum $80,000 a year and upwards of 100 and 120. That's what an A-level technician should be making at minimum. And it should probably be higher because of all the investment in tools and education that they have to have and experience, years of experience. We're not, there's two problems that we have in this industry. There's more, but one of our biggest problems is people coming in and giving it away because they're basing their labor rate on a discount model, which is fine, whatever. I don't care. But who is it they have working for them that's doing this job, right? Are these quality technicians that are professionally trained, who have the right tools and the education to repair your car correctly? Are they going to stand by their work? That's what gives this industry a bad name, is people see, well, I can get it done for, half the price over here, but what are you really getting for that? Yeah, maybe they can put a set of brake pads on for you, but when it comes to a more complex problem, what are you going to do when they throw a bunch of parts at it and it doesn't solve your problem? It becomes about value. What kind of value do you bring to the clients? And that's where this industry has gotten it wrong for so long, is we've got to find ways to bring more value, not only to our clients, but to our employees. It's key because, like you said, people are aging out of this industry and nobody wants to come back into it because there's no money in it.
Well, there's an interesting statistic, and I probably will get it a little bit wrong, but I'm close enough, that I heard from what's his name? It's CarQuest number. We're bringing in, I think, 70 or 75,000 new technicians into our industry every year.
Yes.
They're coming in, right?
Yes.
The problem with all the new technicians is we're not keeping them.
Yes.
And we're not keeping them because I think there's multiple reasons. $15 an hour is not a livable wage. And if I'm paying $15 an hour, can I provide tools? Can I buy tools? Can I learn? So we're only keeping the most hardcore automotive guys from that pool in the industry. Number two, poor management. I don't believe that most shops really understand how to manage people and how to inspire people and create that vision, that long-term thing that Rocky's talking about. We want you here for the next 25 years. We're going to help you learn how to make $150,000 because that's what you should be able to make. And we're going to charge what we need to so that we can pay that to somebody. I'm not saying that I'd pay $150,000 to a guy coming out of school, but we got to do better than we're doing. I think another problem is we're throwing them to the wolves. We're putting them out in the bay with one of our technicians and hoping that that guy educates them and helps them. And in many cases, that guy we're giving them to is a great technician, but a poor trainer, not a guy that can really train and help them learn what they need to. Let's kind of go back to this. How do I set my labor rate? If I can afford to pay 40% of my labor rate to my technician, and that's got to be a loaded cost. So if I'm $100 an hour, I have $40 an hour to pay to my technician when he or she is 100% productive. As productivity goes down, and our industry average is about 72% right now, then I can afford to pay less and less because they're not giving me the hours for the hours that I'm paying.
Yep.
And that 40% is a loaded cost, so it has to include everything that I would pay for a technician: FICA, FUTA, shoulda, woulda, coulda, all my taxes, education, uniforms, any training, travel, holidays, PTO. In California, you got 3 days PTO dictated by the state. I've got to be able to make that affordable. And there is this idea of you have a posted rate, and a lot of shops don't understand the difference between their posted rate and their effective rate. So your posted rate is what you put on the wall, or what you estimate by. I'm $120 an hour, and that's what I charge. So that's a 3-hour job. That's the customer can get charged $360 in labor. But if your technician takes 4 hours to do that job, then your effective labor rate just went down.
Yep.
And if you're doing oil changes, you're probably $60 to $80 an hour when you do oil changes. So every oil change you do, you bring your labor rate down. When you have discounts, we're going to do, oh, Mr. Customer, I know that, this isn't something you planned for. I know the car was here last week. It's not something we did, but I'm going to help you out. I'll give you the labor or you buy the parts. Now my labor rate just came down to 0. And then we have comebacks where my tech has to redo the work. Not his fault. He didn't screw up. The part was bad. Something else went wrong with it, and I've got to pay my tech another 3 hours to do that same water pump a second time, and I'm not getting paid for it. So my labor rate comes down and down and down. Every shop owner has to understand their effective labor rate and has to manage their effective labor rate, because that's the reality of what I get paid. So I got a shop owner recently out at his shop, $120 labor rate, $84 posted, $120 posted labor rate, $84 effective labor rate, and he's paying one of his lead technicians, by the time you add everything in with the FICA, the FUTA, and everything, about $56 an hour.
Wow.
So there's no money left in the pile to pay the bills and take some money as an owner of the business. So you got to understand that effective labor rate deal.
Yes.
and how that works for you, right? Patrick, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. It's kind of circle back on what I was talking about before. It's not just about, we're not preaching just raise your labor rate.
Yep.
It's about elevating your business to a level of professionalism that customers should expect from us that they haven't gotten in the past. And Rocky touched on it. We're not grease monkeys anymore. These cars today are highly advanced, and you need to have an engineering level education to understand how to repair these things. At least if you're doing it right. And we as an industry need to understand that it's not just I got to raise my labor rate so I can make more money. It's not about that. That's part of it, but we have to bring more value to the customers. I do loaner cars, and I wash every car because I want my customers to expect a level of professionalism from my business that they weren't getting before. And that's really the key to what the crux of this. It's about bringing more value and a higher level of professionalism that will attract not only customers but employees to your business. Did we blank out?
You're just cutting in and out a little bit. Like,
Sorry,
we're having some trouble.
Okay.
It is what it is. No worries. I think we got your gist in your message. And here's my take over the last 40 years, because I've been doing this 40 years now. Rocky, you might have me beat by a year or so. Maybe not. Maybe I got you beat.
No, you got me beat.
We've played to the lowest common denominator, not the highest common denominator. That's as right. An industry. The cost of entry is more expensive today than it's ever been into the industry, but it's still not dramatic. Somebody can go down to Sears, spend a couple thousand on tools, and go into California, pay their their $300 to the bar or $400 or whatever it is today, and have a license to be an automotive shop. Put a sign up, and they're open for business. Entry costs maybe $10,000 to get into the thing. That's a guy with a single bay or two. Might have a rack, might not have a rack, whatever, and he's in business. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that if that guy charges $65 an hour when he should be charging $120, that's a bad thing for everybody. It's a bad thing for the industry. It's a bad thing for the customer. It's a bad thing for everyone.
Yes.
Rocky, how do we how do we raise the awareness in the industry besides podcasts? How can we get this message across that more is better and more is absolutely necessary for the future?
Well, one shop owner at a time. We preach this constantly in our association about to charge right, to charge correctly in order to not only stay in business but also be able to sustain for a long period of times. And I want to touch on that. I get asked quite a bit, hey, I'm thinking about getting into this business. What do you think I should be doing? Right?
Run.
So besides running, so I said, look, okay, so what are you, technician? Yeah, I'm a technician. Okay, great. So you know your work, you know your business as far as working on the car is concerned, but you probably don't have any idea in business. You have no idea in marketing. So if you want my advice, I would advise you to go to take a 101 on business on a community college, take 101 in marketing, and even if you wanted to extend yourself, take 101 in psychology, or and to realize, to figure people out a lot faster than what you usually do, to look at situations before they arise, to figure out how you're going to have conversations with people. And so, and those are actual, when you combine all of together, that's when you're going to have a viable business, along with creating goals for the future, short-term, mid-term, long-term. Long-term goal being, for example, your retirement. Mid-term goal would be, hey, I'm really thinking about purchasing my own building. And the short-term goal, how am I going to pay? My techs are going to go up every year. My rent is going up every year. I'm going to buy Whizbang 9000, like Malin says. I want to buy that Whizbang 9000, and I need to pay for that. And all of those things that I want to do, those are short-term goals. So how do I set myself and my rate to where I can accomplish these short, mid, long, right? Those are the things that we try to concentrate in bringing awareness to the shop owners that they need to be doing, especially the younger ones. And like you said, especially the younger ones are more vulnerable in exiting the industry earlier than the older ones. The older ones have learned kind of they figured out how to do it. But even though some of them are still back where in dark ages, but I'm in reality. Okay, I'm not. I want to talk real. But so anyway, those are it's constant conversations. People like yourself, Cecil, and Patrick, involved in the industry. People that are coaches like yourselves. I urge anyone that doesn't have a coach and they need to figure this out, to have a coach, to go after and finding out how to get involved with a coach, for them to bring themselves up to a level where they can charge properly, they can look at the future properly. If you have future is a lot more clearer for you. If you put those glasses on that you can see better in the future, wouldn't you have a better time? Wouldn't you have your attitude change? Wouldn't you be a lot calmer instead of being nervous, angry all the time, trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen next month or next year? So all of these things contribute to a long-term career that you've created for yourself that you want to be in. And by doing all that and engaging other shop owners to do the same thing, and being, mixing it all up and bringing the industry up, you're bringing not only yourself up but other people up too, and your industry is going. There is no. I don't believe in competitors. I don't have a competitor.
Me either.
Yeah.
There is no competition for what I do.
No.
You know, so anyway, so I don't want to veer too much off of labor rate, but you really have to put all that together to figure out what you need to charge. Forget about what the guy next door is charging.
Yeah.
That's not your problem. Your problem is to figure out what you need to stay alive, to make enough money, to do all of those things that you want to do.
Yeah, and do a great job for your employees and a great job for your customers.
Exactly.
Wouldn't it be great if we could get every person coming into the industry into a basic financial class to understand the automotive business and how money plays out? And wouldn't it be great if we could get them into a basic management leadership class? You know, would that change the industry? You know, Rocky, you said earlier, we're doing this one shop at a time.
Yep.
I've been doing it one shop at a time for 15 years now. and I'm going to die before I have the kind of impact that I really want to have.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll take over.
Yeah.
But Cecil,
I want it now, Dave.
Cecil, you're part. Please don't. You're part of the solution for this industry. You're part of the plus. Yeah. And if we can't give up, we got to continue. We're always going to continue. We're never going to give up.
No, I'm not giving up until I die. So, and then Patrick has it. Then Patrick's taking over. You know, isn't it great though that we have some younger people in this industry? I'm so energized by the younger people in the industry. Yep. They have the energy I used to have, right? You know, and the drive I used to have. It is so fun being around these younger people and watching them learn and grow. It's exciting. My son is over here doing a dance. He's a millennial. We love him.
By the way, Cecil, I want to thank Kent. He's a great guy. I really appreciate all his efforts to put this thing together. Thank you, Kent.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. He is a great guy. I'm very proud of that one. And I don't tell him enough. So don't anybody tell him I said that. I don't want him to know. That'll get too big. All right, let's go back to the labor rate issue. How do I charge? I mean, I'm asking the question. I know the answers. I'm not asking the question so that I because I don't know what it is. But how do I charge more than the guy right next to me that is doing kind of what I do? How do I do that, Patrick? You know, a lot of guys really struggle with this idea that you know, a customer says, "Hey, but I can get it done cheaper at Billy Bob's down the street." How do I charge more? How do I make that happen in my business? If my labor rate has to be higher because my expenses are higher, I pay my techs better, I have better techs. How do I charge more? How do I need to think about that?
You have to, first of all, you've got to get past the fear. Everybody's so afraid of their customers that they're going to leave or, you know, bite their head off, or I don't know. Get rid of the fear. You got to let it go. And you have to be prepared to defend why you charge that much, your value proposition. What do you bring to the table that you can tell the customer? You know, I could go over there's a multitude of things. This is not a sales class, but your value proposition. I have better technicians. We have a better warranty. We're going to use a quality part that's OE or better. We're going to provide a better warranty. That's why we charge more. Now, if you want to go to Billy Bob's, I understand. But remember, the worst money you ever spent is money that doesn't solve your problem. And we're going to take care of your problem one time.
Don't forget the loaner cars.
And I can have it done by 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Don't forget the loaner cars and the car wash.
Right. Loaner cars, car wash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we forget the personal aspect. They're at your shop. They came to you. They called you. They want to do business with you. How many of your Rocky? How many of your customers do you think truly price shop you and get on the phone after you talk to them? And what's that?
Okay, so just so you guys know, I send out every time we inspect. The car comes in, we inspect the vehicle. We do a digital DVI. We do a vehicle fault code printout. We do a battery charging and all that, and then we do an estimate. And we put all that together on a PDF, scroll up PDF, and I send it to them without any problem. I send it so they know exactly what they're charging. That's the way I do it. I'm not saying that's what you should be doing. I'm just saying that's the way I did. I have so much confidence in what I do and how I do it, and that I'm definitely different than the guy next door or the guy across the street or across town, that I have no problem for them to shop around if they wanted to, because they're never going to get the quality that I can give them.
Nope.
That's who I am, what I am. I sell myself constantly every day, just like you guys do too. You know, we all do. But I don't have a problem. I think that if they need to go to other guy down the road, they should.
Yep.
And they're no longer my customer. That's okay with me too.
So let me ask you a question about that, because there's really kind of a divide right now in the industry among, at least among consultants, the way that I can see it. And there are some people out there teaching, once the guy questions your price, to negotiate with him, bring the price, don't ever let him leave your shop.
Oh, no.
Okay, but I love that reaction, buddy. That's my reaction. Oh my God, they're taking me backwards 27 steps. But why is that? Why do you think, Rocky, that's not a good idea? Or why do you think that we shouldn't be doing that in our shop?
Okay, so I'm a human being. I have a self-worth. There's a certain amount of money I need to stay in business. And I need to get that in order to give the service, the quality of service I need to give. And that price that I've gotten to as an estimate is non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable for myself. It's non-negotiable for the client. It's non-negotiable. I cannot veer from that number. And if I veer from that number, there goes something has to give. It's either going to be the quality, or something else is going to give. I can't give. What's that?
My paycheck might be one of the things that has to
right.
give. It ain't going to give.
Right. So therefore, I cannot and will not. I won't have the now. That doesn't mean that if a client of mine comes in and and they want a bulb here and there or wipers or something I give that stuff away. Yeah. I have no problem doing that. Actually, I always tell my clients, just stop by. It takes 5 minutes. I'm going to check the oil, check the lights, make sure everything is okay, check the tires, and you'll be on your way. No charge. I'm not going to charge.
All that's built into
exactly
charging the right price.
Exactly.
Because I have to earn it. If I earn it, then I can do whatever I need to for my customer.
Absolutely.
If I'm broke, if I'm not charging enough in the front, I can't provide a good pay for my tax. I can't provide medical. I can't provide a 401k or some kind of retirement. And I can't provide all those nice things for my customers that they want. Now, the other thing.
Cecil, when you go, I come up with examples. I always use doctors because it's fantastic. For me, it works great. Do you go to your doctor and say, hey, the other doctor is going to charge less. Can you kind of bring your price down a little bit so we can negotiate? Do you ever do that? I mean, if you trust your optometrist to check your eyes out, do you negotiate because you got somebody else doing it cheaper? Do you trust them to do a better job than the other guy? I mean, does that number vary what your trust level is on that person?
You know how bad it is with my doctor? I go to my doctor, and of course, I'm paying the copay and the this and the that, and then he wants to do blood work, every other time, so I'm paying for that. And he sees a spot on my face, and before he even asks me, he's got the nitrogen out. He's burning that thing off. He doesn't even ask. He says, hold on a minute, I'm going to take care of this. And then then there's a $79 charge for, a half an ounce of nitrogen and 3 seconds of his time. In my last visit, he said, you got this weird thing going on. We want to send you to a special optometrist. because if you have a problem, it's going to show up in your eyes. And so I got to pay 3 times as much for this special optometrist because my insurance won't pay for it, right? Yeah. And I don't even argue. I just get it done because that's the right thing. It's the guy that I trust, right?
Absolutely.
And I think if you plan it right, again, it kind of goes back to deciding who you want to be as a business.
Yes.
The beginning, right? I want to be professional. I want to feel professional. I want to look professional. I want to deal with these type of clients. I want to work on these types of cars. I think when you get there, now all of a sudden, it kind of helps you set your tone and set where am I going to be, right? This is who I am, and so this is how I have to act. Patrick, how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel very good about it. Thank you for asking. No, that's, I took over a business not too long ago, and all the I'll just tell you a little story. All the tool guys in the area, everybody around me knows what's going on in my shop, and they don't believe it. They don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to them. But what we've done is we've transformed a struggling business. It was a good business with good clientele into a professionally ran auto repair shop. There's no other option for me. I've done the struggling shop owner thing. I've learned my lessons from that, and that's not who I want to be. I want to be the shop that can provide a great warranty for my customers and look at the car and present the work and provide options for my clients. I want to be able to pay my techs well. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but that's who I want to be. If you want to be that other guy, there's a butt for every seat. My dad used to always say, it's unfortunate because if we all elevated our business, then it would just be a matter of who gave the best service, right? It wouldn't be about price.
I think it's still, in most cases, the way that I see it, it's about the best product and the best service. I don't believe that the majority of the public is out there looking for price. I mean, I know that I get on the phone, I get a lot of price shoppers, but I really think what they're doing is they're asking the only question they know how to ask to try to figure out if I'm a good guy and I'm going to take good care of them and if the job's going to be done right and is the price going to be fair. I think my clients, they want a fair price. They want return on their investment. If they put money in, they want to feel like they got value from whatever it is that we gave them, whether it's a consulting company or a automotive shop. And I would tell you the same thing is true of me when I go out and I purchase something. I never go in in fact, I know I'm paying a higher labor rate because the guy that works on my cars is also one of my clients. So I know his labor rate's probably $20, $25 an hour higher than it was when we started because I keep pounding him to raise the labor rate. We're doing these series of short videos that are just really, here's a help for you in the shop. So there's no hook on it. There's no, give us your email. It's just, hey, here's one of the ways. And the very first one that I did was raise your labor rate. $5 an hour, typical shop, that's going to be somewhere between about $7 and $9 on an average ticket for your client. Probably put $50,000 to $60,000 in your bottom line into the year. And for $9, no client is going to argue with me for $9 on a ticket. None of mine anyway. And if they were going to argue with me for $9, then they're probably not my client. And Billy Bob's down the street's a great place for them to be. They'll fit better there. They'll feel more comfortable there. And even though Billy Bob maybe doesn't have the technicians that I have, they're not as good. Maybe they make more mistakes than we do. Maybe they use a lower end product than we do. That still is a good fit for the guy that's looking for the cheapest price, right?
Right.
And that's okay, right? I mean, I think this whole consulting thing right now where we're like, you can't lose any customer, don't let them go anywhere, get that money is insane because, you can't put a square peg in a round hole. And if you try to, somebody's going to lose something, somebody's going to be uncomfortable. And I don't want to be the one that's uncomfortable, frankly. I mean, I've I know what I want out of this life.
And Cecil, let me add to this that I know quite a bit of shops that have variable labor rates.
Absolutely. We need to talk about that before we're done. So that's a great segue in. Go ahead.
So there are not only there are softwares. If you're not going to be scrutinizing your numbers constantly, every day or every week, there are softwares that are out there that will do that for you. So you plug in a number plug a desired gross amount into that software, and it starts to count down as you go through cars, and it varies the labor rate to help you achieve that number. And there is no state of California. You don't have to have a one set number. There is no laws against that or for that, and you don't have to post your labor rate.
Only for smog in California.
Only smog or brake and lamp inspections or
right.
some weird stuff like that.
Smog.
But other than that, you don't have to. So your labor rate can vary.
Right.
So in order to achieve what you need to achieve by end of the month. So those are the short, very, very short-term goals are being met by simply raising your labor rate. Making
adjustments where you need to.
Exactly.
It's funny. I book hotels and airfare all the time. And if it's busy that week in the area that the hotel is, it costs me more money. My rental car costs me more money. My airfare costs me more money depending on how busy they are and how many seats they need to fill.
Upon demand, yes.
Yeah, and this is a very accepted thing in other industries. Now, I have shops that have varying labor rates depending on, like I have 3 diagnostics. I have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. I always say you know nothing about the car until you plug that scanner in, just what the customer told you. And if I open the hood and there's a bunch of new parts on and some wires hanging, it went to a level 3. It has to. I know it's going to take more time. We also have shops now that have varying labor rates based on the age of the car.
Yes.
If the car's 15 years old or newer, it's 120. If it's 15 to 25, it's 130. And if it's past 25 years old, it's $140 an hour. And the reason for that is that it takes more time. There's more rust, more dirt, and chasing parts on an old car. I could have a service advisor spend hours trying to find that component. And in fact, what we might do is have to go to a junkyard, find something close, modify it, make it work on an old car. It's going to take a lot more of our time. Patrick, you have a varying labor rate in your shop?
I do. I have 2 labor rates. I have a fleet rate and I have my standard rate.
Okay.
Because I do have a small fleet work. It's maybe 5% of what I do.
Right. And you give them some deal. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make a comment here because I need to make it for all the other shops out there. Please do not chase fleet at a discounted rate until you make money with your clients and make enough money with your clients. Now you can chase all the fleet you want, unless you are a fleet-only business. And then that's another game.
Right.
Now, also in sales class, when we're teaching salespeople, when someone calls and says, what's your labor rate? Patrick, I'm going to ask you to answer that question because I'm pretty sure I know what that answer is going to be. What's the answer to what's your labor rate on the phone?
If somebody calls and asks me what my labor rate is, and I'll just tell them it depends on the job.
Okay.
Yeah. We bill by the job.
Right. It depends on the technician I need, the skill level of the tech, the equipment needed to do the job. And in fact, I have some labor rates that are around $60, $70 an hour, but that's not important. What's important is what do you get for what you pay, right? And that's the answer. And then you start talking about your unique selling proposition. Mm-hmm. So labor rate, if you do this right on the sales end, you have a labor rate, first of all, is your business that you need to have. I don't care what it is. If you need to be $200 an hour, you better be $200 an hour, and you better find a way to convince that customer that by paying $200 an hour, they're getting $300 worth of whatever, right? Yep. Benefit. Uh-huh. You also need to help the customer understand and create that additional value for your customer if your labor rate is going to be whatever your labor rate needs to be.
And that
I think
goes into sales training.
Yeah, I think
That's
part
a
of
whole
it's
other
just
topic.
confidence and ego, right? I mean, I'm worth $10,000 an hour or $10,000 a day. I mean, I make people hundreds of $1,000s a year. Why not? And of course, that's not what I charge, guys. So don't take that. We're not $10,000 a day. But really, I think that your ego and your confidence in your product really creates a lot of that and helps you answer those questions, or maybe not even have those questions from your customers. All right, we're getting towards the end here. We got a few minutes left. Rocky, is there anything that we have not covered that you really wanted to get?
Yeah. So, Cecil, do you have a formula of how to get to, as far as numbers are concerned? If you have your numbers together, you have P&L, you have all these other numbers, you have that formula that you can back into your labor rate, correct?
The way that I back into my labor rate for my shops really begins and ends almost with, what do I have to pay my top technician? Not my lowest guy, but my top guy. So if I take my top technician and I'm paying him, let's say $38 an hour, I have a load on top of that for the formula that we use when we're, that's a good formula. I add 30% on top of that $38.
Yes.
So if I take that formula and I say it's 38 times 1.3, I'm actually paying $49.40. Now I need that to be 40% of whatever I'm charging. So I believe if I divide it by 0.4, let me get there one more time. Divided by 0.4, that's going to tell me $123.50 is what I need to be in order to pay this technician. And I always use my top tech, not my middle. And here's why. When I plan in my business, I always round up for the business. Because for me, if I provide value to my clients, it doesn't matter what I charge, but I need to make a certain amount of money in my company. I've got staff to pay, and I have to put on a certain image. I have to buy shirts with our logos and nice shirts, and I have to travel and I have to pay for that. And if I don't charge enough, then there's always this worry that's on my shoulders about how do I pay the bills, and then I can't be good for my clients.
Exactly.
And I think it suffers. So the formula is to take whatever you're paying your top tech, multiply that times 1.3, because you're adding that 30% load. That's a good number in most states. That number used to be 1.25, and we moved it up to 3 because now in California you got a PTO, and in other states there are benefits that have to be provided. And someday it might be 1.4, but today it's 1.3. And then divide that by 0.6, and it's going to tell you whatever you need to charge. Now, here's one more kicker, Rocky. You have to take into account productivity in your business if you're paying hourly or salary to any technician. And so once you have that $123.50 based on a $38 tech, now I have to throw productivity in there. So if my productivity is 70%, I have to divide that number by 0.7.
Yep. You got to add another 30%.
And that tells me I need to charge $176.43 an hour in order to make the profit margin I need to on labor. Now, I have some shops that are $200 an hour. They're specialty shops. They're in bigger cities. I have some shops in San Francisco that are $190, $195. I would tell you my average shop is probably around $130 or $140 around the United States. And, of course, if you're in Arkansas, the Deep South, a lot of those labor rates are a little bit lower than they are in other places. I don't know that they should be, but they are. So how do I charge $176? You can't. Unless you are in certain places, you might be able to get away with that. I mean, I would do it. I wouldn't have a problem. But again, I've got the ego and the confidence that I think I could get that without an issue. I don't even care what the dealer's charging. But that tells you how important understanding your business financially and how important productivity is for your business, because there's so many shops losing tens of thousands of dollars every year in productivity from their technicians. And so take a class. I don't care who you go to. There's a lot of good trainers.
Tons of them
in the industry. There's some great people here. So if you don't like me, if I remind you of your ex-husband or something, then take a class from Bill or Bill Greeno,
anybody,
or take a class from Malin or ESI or even Management Success or Arlo O'Connor. Take a class and start to understand your financials and give yourself the confidence that you need to be successful in the business. All right, we got 3 minutes left. Patrick, last words?
It was great seeing you guys, and I appreciate you having me on. Don't be afraid of your customers. I would just like to add something to what Cecil said. If you've got some good technicians and you would like to pay them more, work backwards from what you would like to pay them and base your labor rates on that. And that's a good starting point. Don't be afraid. Fear will paralyze and cripple you. If you need any help, reach out. I'm on Facebook. I'd be glad to help anybody. Tatsu and I are going to ASCCA shop. We're going to go give him a hand for the day. We're here to help. Even if you can't afford to pay and you just need a phone call and you need some advice, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. That's it.
I'll second that. In my company, I spent about an hour and a half online yesterday with a shop. Guy's not at a point where he can afford us. He's a single guy. He's doing about $70,000 a year in sales. And it's a little scary, frankly. But I gave him about 4 or 5 things to do that ought to double or triple that in the next few months. And it's a no-charge thing. We want to help. In fact, we want to get you to the point where you can afford us. So we'd love to help you.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And so, Cecil, just so you know, ASCCA is not just about collecting the best shops in California. It's not about getting, the top tier shops. It's also engaging and making the membership with the shops that need to come up. They need the help. We're here for that. And ASCCA will help you to elevate and unite. And that is the elevating and uniting is the only way out of what we're in. And thank you very much, Cecil. Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you, Ken, on the background. I know he's back there somewhere.
He's back there, making sure I do it right.
I really appreciate this, and I don't know how else I could thank you guys. Cecil has been around for a long time. He's always been a friend of ASCCA. And again, thank you very much, Cecil.
I don't know if you know, but I was on the board for several years back in the 90s. So I started Chapter 30 a long time ago.
That's
when
right.
I was a lot skinnier and had a lot more hair.
Wasn't that Palm Springs chapter? That's right.
Yeah, Palm Springs.
Thank you for all you've done. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to keep doing it because I believe in this industry. I love this industry. And, we want a rising tide. We want to help everyone be successful in the industry, from the single shop with the single guy struggling to the big shops. It doesn't matter. We want everyone to do the job and make a real living and create a great industry.
Absolutely.
And we have so many great people in our industry. It's amazing. I want to thank everyone that spent the time to watch this and that will spend the time to watch this. We will be reposting that. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Spotify. And you'll find it on our website as well as ASCCA. And we'll also get a few other people to get it posted on their sites. Thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to doing this again sometime with you, Rocky.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Patrick.